So when you picture a millionaire, what comes to mind? Is it, the sleek imported car, the designer clothes, or maybe a huge mansion with an infinity pool?
Right.
Most of us have this image, this idea of wealth as something really flashy, something that just screams, I've made it. But what if that whole picture is, well, almost entirely wrong?
It's a powerful illusion, isn't it?
Hmm.
I mean, our media, pop culture, they tend to fixate on the ultra rich, right? The
Hmm.
celebrities, the people inheriting massive fortunes.
Yeah.
But the truth about who actually holds most of the wealth in America and, crucially, how they built it, well, it's way more surprising and actually much more accessible than you might think.
Absolutely. So today we're doing a deep dive into the, let's call them surprising secrets of America's genuinely wealthy people.
Hmm.
And our guide for this is the foundational research from The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. Their work, over decades really, it fundamentally shifted how we understand who millionaires actually are.
Yeah, it really did. Our mission today is basically to unpack the real habits, the, quiet disciplines, and the often unseen characteristics of people who've genuinely built significant wealth.
Right.
We want to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding what real financial independence looks like. And it's all backed by concrete examples and some truly eye-opening findings from their research.
Okay, so let's start with maybe the core finding that just sets the stage. The vast majority, we're talking somewhere between 80 to 85% of millionaires in America, they're self-made.
Self-made, yeah.
They didn't inherit it, they built it. And what's maybe even more fascinating is that these millionaires, they consistently say the journey to wealth.
Hmm.
The whole process of setting goals and achieving them, that was often way more satisfying than just, hitting the number.
That really challenges so many stereotypes, doesn't it? I mean, the authors themselves, when they first did focus groups with what they called decamillionaires.
Okay, so that's people with over $10 million net worth.
Exactly. So they prepared, fancy wines, pâté, expecting a certain type of person.
Sure.
And then this guy they called Mr. Bud walked in. He was 69, first-generation millionaire, net worth well over $10 million. But he was dressed in what the authors called dull, normal clothing.
Dull normal. And when they offered him like a vintage 1970 Bordeaux?
His response was classic. He said, I drink scotch and 2 kinds of beer free and Budweiser.
Huh. Perfect. That just perfectly shows the clash between expectation and reality, doesn't it?
It really does. Or think about Johnny Lucas, another example.
Yeah.
He's a typical millionaire, net worth over $2 million. So that puts his household in the top 2% nationwide for wealth.
Okay.
But to his neighbors, he seems totally nondescript, middle class. His life is built on, traditional values.
Mm-hmm.
Hard work, discipline, sacrifice, thrift, sound investing.
Things that maybe aren't so glamorous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The authors even said these qualities might threaten an average audience
Yeah.
just because they demand a real shift in lifestyle priorities.
Which brings us to the frugality. This is where it gets really interesting, the actual spending habits.
Mm-hmm.
The research found 50% or more of the millionaires they surveyed never spent more than $399 for a suit.
Right, under $400.
Only about 1 in 10 spent $1,000 or more. And get this, half of them paid $140 or less for shoes.
$140.
And 50% never spent more than $235 on a wristwatch. The point isn't just the price tags, right? It's the mindset, valuing durability, utility over the brand name.
And just to give that some context, the self-made millionaires, who are the vast majority, remember,
Yeah.
they consistently spent way less on these things than people who inherited wealth. It's like the typical self-made guy paid around $360 for a suit.
Okay.
But the typical inheritor, over $600, and here's a little detail I love, over 30% of the millionaire respondents had JCPenney credit cards.
Really? JCPenney?
Yeah, and they noted that consumer publications actually gave Penny's private brand suits top scores for durability, cut, and fit. So again, it's about value, longevity, not luxury labels.
And this frugality, it isn't just about them personally, right? The spouse plays a critical role.
Oh, huge. Often overlooked,
Yeah.
but absolutely critical. One millionaire, just put it bluntly, I can't get my wife to spend any money.
Huh?
The research is really clear. You are highly unlikely to get wealthy in one generation if your spouse is a, quote, hyper-consumer.
Yeah.
You've got to be a team on this.
A united front on spending.
Totally. There's this great anecdote about a millionaire's wife. Her husband's company went public. He gave her $8 million worth of stock.
Wow. Okay. Life-changing money.
You'd think. But she kept cutting food coupons at the kitchen table. And her reason, she said, It's how come we're well off today, made a lot of trade-offs, sacrifices early in our marriage.
So the habit just stuck.
It was deeply ingrained. It went beyond just the income level. It was who they were.
There was another example, Mrs. Jane Rule, an auctioneer.
Yes, a millionaire auctioneer, $2 million net worth, but her average annual income was only around $90,000.
So how did she manage that?
Extreme frugality. And she said it came from seeing someone crying once while their belongings were auctioned off in a bankruptcy. That image just stayed with her.
Wow.
So it reinforced this life of, like, financial defense. She spends way less, like only 61% of what other similar millionaires spend on housing. And she actively avoids luxury foreign cars. She lives it.
That brings us to a really fundamental point the authors make, the difference between income and wealth. People mix these up all the time.
All the time. You can have really high income and still be basically asset poor. So the authors use this thing, they call it a wealth equation.
Okay.
Basically, they compare your actual net worth to what your net worth should be based on your age and your income.
Yeah.
If you accumulate more than expected, you're a prodigious accumulator of wealth, a PA.
Got it.
If you accumulate less, you're an under-accumulator of wealth, UAW. And it's always relative to your peers, your age, and income group.
So like the example of Charles Bobbins, the 41-year-old fireman. Combined household income, $55,000.
Right. Relatively modest.
But he's a PA. Why? Because his net worth is $460,000. That's more than double what the research says it should be for his profile, which is around $225,500.
Exactly. He lives on a fireman's and secretary's income, but he manages to save and invest a significant chunk.
And then you contrast that with James H. Ford II. He's a 51-year-old attorney earning over $92,000 a year. Pretty good income.
Decent income, yeah. But his actual net worth is only $226,511. His expected wealth, based on the formula, should be closer to $471,000.
So he's an under-accumulator, a UAW.
A classic UAW. He earns plenty, but he manages to spend pretty much all of it. Very little left for actual wealth building. The big insight here is just high income does not automatically equal wealth.
Which leads into this other crucial idea, the tax on realized income.
Yes, this is huge. A core principle for building wealth, according to Stanley and Danko, is minimizing your realized income. That's the taxable stuff, like your salary, that you pay tax on right away.
Okay.
Instead, you want to maximize your unrealized income. That's wealth appreciation that doesn't generate immediate cash flow, like stocks you hold on to as they grow, or real estate value increasing.
So you let it grow without taking it out and getting taxed immediately?
Exactly. The case study of Sharon and Barbara shows this perfectly. Both women earn about $220,000 a year.
Okay, same income?
Same income. But Sharon, the UAW, has a net worth of $370,000. And she pays a staggering 18.8% of her entire wealth in federal income tax each year.
Wow. Nearly a fifth of her net worth gone in taxes annually.
Yeah. Now, Darbra, the PA, she has a net worth of $3.55 million. But she only pays about 2% of her wealth in tax each year.
Huge difference. How?
Barbara has structured her finances to minimize that realized taxable income and maximize the unrealized growth. Her wealth compounds mostly untaxed until much, much later.
It's like that fictional Yogi Berra quote the authors used.
Right.
Right.
Sharon, you can't be wealthy. Your income is too high. Meaning her income structure was just too tax inefficient.
It's a completely different approach. And it's also about how they spend their time, isn't it? The pause.
Absolutely. PAs dedicate serious time, often around 8 hours a month, just to financial planning. And they usually start young.
Whereas the UAWs often say,
Too busy. They claim they're too busy, they look for quick fixes, not that consistent, disciplined effort. It's also interesting, for every 100 millionaires who don't budget, about 120 do.
so budgeting is common.
It is, and even among those who don't formally budget, over half use a pay-yourself-first approach. They invest at least 15% of their income before they spend anything else.
That discipline extends even to things like buying cars.
Oh yeah, Dr. South, the UAW example. He spends over $72,000 a year on cars. Just bought a $65,000 Porsche. He calls himself a connoisseur of fine cars.
Spends time bargaining for cars.
Right. Instead of spending that time, say, researching investments.
Now compare him to Dr. North, the PA.
Totally different. Not as a car connoisseur at all. His most recent car, he bought it 6 years ago. It was a 3-year-old Mercedes he paid $35,000 for.
Value and longevity again. Not status, not the newest model.
Exactly. And beyond just these examples, the authors identified specific types of frugal car buyers, like the used vehicle prone shopper millionaire.
Okay, what's their deal?
They make up about 19.5% of millionaires. These folks are the most price-sensitive, really aggressive bargain hunters. They'll spend months finding the absolute best deal.
How much do they typically spend?
Average was around $22,500 for their latest car. And they often buy from private sellers, not dealerships.
And this frugality isn't just cars, right?
No, it's across the board. Clothing, everything. They really embody that palm mindset consistently.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something the authors called a silent wealth drain. Economic outpatient care, or EOC.
Ah, yes, EOC. It sounds kind of benign, right? It refers to those substantial economic gifts and, acts of kindness that affluent parents give their adult children and grandkids.
Sounds nice helping out your kids.
It sounds nice. But the research shows this clear, statistically proven relationship. The more dollars adult children receive, the fewer dollars they actually accumulate themselves.
Wait, really? Getting money makes them have less wealth?
Counterintuitive, I know. But yes, and conversely, those adult kids who get fewer dollars from parents tend to accumulate more wealth on their own.
That's wild. Do they have data on that?
Oh yeah, it's stark. In 8 out of 10 job categories they studied, adult children who received gifts had lower net worth and lower income than peers in the same job who didn't get gifts.
Give me an example.
Okay, accountants who received gifts. They had only 57% of the net worth of accountants who didn't receive gifts. The takeaway is that these handouts often end up hindering, not helping, long-term wealth building for the kids.
How does that happen? What's the mechanism?
Well, often it creates what they call a consumption treadmill. Imagine affluent parents give their son, maybe he's an engineer, this beautiful, expensive $9,000 rug.
Okay, nice gift.
But maybe his apartment has hand-me-down furniture. So that fancy rug looks totally out of place. Now he and his wife feel like they have to buy expensive dining furniture, a crystal chandelier, to match the rug.
Ah, so one gift forces more spending.
Exactly. That one gift compels them to spend almost the same amount again on other affluent artifacts, as the authors put it. It starts this cycle of higher consumption, maybe even dependency.
And the EOC recipients themselves, they might feel well off.
Right. They start blurring the lines between their own wealth and their parents' wealth.
Yeah.
Because maybe they expect more gifts are coming.
Which leads to more spending, maybe using credit cards more.
Precisely. They rely on credit for cash flow, anticipating the next parental bailout. Take the case of Mrs. BPF. Her parents fully funded her business and give her $60,000 a year on top of that.
Wow. So what happens?
Well, she bought a $45,000 car without even shopping around. Spent $20,000 on clothes, racked up over $7,000 in credit card interest. And her business, it gets stepchild treatment because there's no real financial pressure for her to make it succeed.
But weren't there some exceptions? Some professions where gifts actually helped?
Yes. This was fascinating. High school and elementary school teachers and college professors, if they received gifts, they actually tended to accumulate more wealth than their colleagues who didn't get gifts.
How much more?
Teachers receiving gifts had 185% of the net worth of non-receiving teachers. Professors had 128%.
So what's different about them?
The strong suggestion is that people in these specific professions were much more likely to actually save and invest the gifts rather than just spend them. Maybe lower starting salaries foster that savings habit early on.
Interesting. So if EOC is often so damaging, why do parents do it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The authors found a few reasons. Many parents worry their kids will fight over the inheritance later, so they give gifts now.
Trying to preempt conflict.
Right. Or they mistakenly believe these gifts will, get the youngsters going, help them get established financially. But the research just doesn't bear that out most of the time. It's tough to break that cycle of well-intentioned but ultimately unhelpful giving.
Okay, so given all that, what does the research say about how parents can raise financially independent kids? Future pause.
Well, they offer some really powerful lessons, mostly based on observing the habits of successful accumulators, like that Dr. North guy we mentioned.
Right.
Rule number 1, simple but profound. Never tell your children that their parents are wealthy.
Just don't make it a thing.
Exactly. Many paws only found out the extent of their parents' wealth when they were adults, often when settling the estate. Their parents just didn't flaunt it or make it the kid's business.
Okay, what's rule number 2?
Teach discipline and frugality by example. Dr. North and his wife, they modeled it. Their kids grew up seeing it, so they became economically disciplined adults too. It's about showing, not just telling.
Makes sense. Rule 3?
Teach children to distinguish between their wealth and your wealth. This is crucial to prevent that blurring of lines we talked about, the kind that leads to overspending and dependency.
Okay. 4?
Teach delayed gratification. So important for building the patience and discipline you need for long-term investing. Understanding that hard work now pays off bigger later.
Number 5.
Avoid using cash gifts as, like, guilt payments or ways to appease kids. The research shows this can actually backfire, create resentment and conflict between siblings, not solve family problems.
Rule 6.
Stay out of your adult children's family matters. Let them run their own lives. Even ask permission before giving major advice or big gifts. Respect their autonomy.
7.
Don't try to compete with your kids or constantly boast about your own achievements. It just sends confusing signals and can undermine their own drive to succeed on their own terms.
And the last one, number 8.
This is a big one. Teach children to achieve, not just to consume. Don't let earning money just be about buying more stuff.
Right.
There's that great advice from Ken's physician father, Pa himself. He told his son, "I am not impressed with what people own, but I'm impressed with what they achieve. Don't chase money. If you are the best in your field, money will find you."
That's powerful. Focus on competence and contribution, and the money follows.
Exactly. It emphasizes intrinsic value over just material stuff. And connecting this back, the single most frequently mentioned gift that millionaires said they got from their parents wasn't cash.
Oh, was it?
Tuition. Paying for their education. It just highlights that the most valuable gift is often the one that enables independence and self-sufficiency, not ongoing financial support.
Okay, so shifting from personal habits and parenting, what about business and career paths? Does the industry matter most?
Well, what's really fascinating here is the finding that, quote, the character of the business owner is more important in predicting his level of wealth than the classification of his business.
So who you are matters more than what industry you're in.
Pretty much. Think about the founders of Home Depot. They didn't just enter the hardware lumber business. They totally reinvented it through their talent, discipline, courage. Their approach mattered more than the industry standards at the time.
And this also ties into ideas about risk, right? Especially for entrepreneurs.
Yes. People often think being an entrepreneur is super risky. But one entrepreneur in the study pushed back. He said, what is risk? Having one source of income. Employees are at risk.
Interesting take. Because employees rely on one paycheck.
While entrepreneurs often have multiple income streams, diverse customers. So in their view, they might actually be less exposed to a single point of failure than a typical salaried employee.
So if you're not going the entrepreneurial route, what about professional careers, doctors, lawyers?
Right. Affluent parents, the research found, often strongly encourage their kids to become self-employed professionals. Physicians, attorneys, accountants, engineers, dentists.
Why those specifically?
Well, they're 5 times more likely to send kids to medical school, 4 times more likely to send them to law school compared to the general population.
Okay.
A big reason is the high profitability rates and stability of these professional firms. Like 87% of physician offices, nearly 95% of dentist offices were profitable. Compare that to, say, only 34% of coal mining operations.
Much better odds.
Yeah. Plus, their main asset is their intellect, which is portable. They can practice almost anywhere. And there's a strong belief that the lifetime benefits just outweigh the high costs of all that training.
Okay, one last piece here. Location and lifestyle. Where you live matters.
Significantly. The research suggests it's often easier to accumulate wealth if you don't live in a high-status, expensive neighborhood.
Why is that? Keeping up with the Joneses.
Pretty much. Many people living in those luxury areas are actually UAWs. They're trading a huge chunk of their current and future income just for the address, prioritizing that visible consumption over quiet accumulation.
Is there an example of that?
Yeah, the contrast between Dr. Bill, a professor in a paw, and his neighbor, Mr. Norman, an executive in a UAW. Dr. Bill, the professor, earns only about half the income of Mr. Norman.
Like half the income.
But he has 9 times the net worth.
Wow. 9 times the wealth on half the income. How?
It comes down to lifestyle. Dr. Bill lives frugally, plans meticulously. He doesn't prioritize a fancy address over genuine financial independence. It really drives home that where you choose to live can heavily dictate how much you're able to save and invest.
So wrapping this all up, what's the core takeaway for someone listening, thinking about their own financial path?
I think the biggest thing is that true wealth, the kind Stanley and Danko found, often belongs not to the flashy, high-spending people we see in magazines,
Right.
but to the quiet, disciplined, frugal folks who consistently live below their means. People who prioritize long-term financial independence over short-term status displays.
It really flips the script on what rich looks like.
It really does. It's a powerful shift in perspective, right?
Right.
Moving away from just the outward signs of prosperity and focusing instead on the internal habits, the disciplines that actually build lasting wealth.
And this raises a big question for, well, for you listening. What status artifacts in your own life might be silently draining your potential to build wealth?
Yeah, could applying even one of these millionaire next door principles actually start to transform your financial future?
What one small, consistent act of frugality or planning could you maybe adopt this week just to start building your own quiet fortune?